I will tell you that I was born for. I was born ready for what I'm about to announce. And, of course, my prediction of a month ago was that I believe that I would be moved to drive time, 3 to 6 Eastern, at some point. And today I'm proud to announce that the Savage Nation, hosted by yours truly, moves to drive time, 3 to 6 Eastern. And I guess that's it. That's the big deal. And it's coming in January. I've waited for this, I would say, my entire life. The prediction is correct. And let me read you the press release, and then I'll take your calls on this. The biggest questions really are these before I tell you what I want to say. And that is this. Will this change of Michael Savage going to drive time change the course of the next election? Remember who you're listening to. I developed the concept of borders, language, and culture as defining a nation. No one has done it better than I. And yet there's not a single politician, including Ted Cruz, who has ever quoted borders, language, and culture as his, let us say, mantra. If I was running for office, I'd run on one platform. Borders, language, and culture. Stick with Michael Savage, you'll have secure borders, English as the only language. We're not a polyglot nation. We're not the Tower of Babel. Learn English or go home. And culture. The common culture that is the glue that has kept nations together since the beginning of nationhood. Borders, language, and culture. That's what I would talk about, and that's what I will talk about right through the next election, midterms and full terms. And so let me go now to these questions. The time slot change certainly reflects something about my show that has resonated with the American people. What do you think that is? And what does this change mean for talk radio? Because with this new time slot, I'm going to attract 4 to 5 times, I would say 4 to 5 times initially more listeners. And which group do you think will find the Savage Nation next? Remember, I've been at it for 20 years. I wasn't born yesterday. I'm number one on the Internet in terms of Internet radio. And that's a big thing because that means the younger people who listen on iPhones and whatnot love the show. The fact is that daytime talk radio is basically stuck all day long on the same topics, the same talking points for too long. They're good people doing a good job, but there's only so much of it that you can listen to. So I'll ask you, what are you most looking forward to hearing on the Savage Nation when the new time slot opens up to me in January? Secondly, as a loyal listener, what excites you the most about this change? And by the way, who do you think is most surprised that my prediction came true? How will the influence of the Savage Nation grow, etc.? 855-400-7282. I can ask you, what are the greatest Savage hits over the years? We have some of them for you today, the golden oldies. We've culled the archives, and we've got short takes on all of them. Some of the best: Savage on Talking to Moses, Savage visiting Google Earth for the first time, me commenting on the Gerald Ford funeral, me stating Saddam was executed too quickly to cover up what he knew, Savage reading the warnings on an ammo box to prove that I can have you listen to me even reading the warnings on an ammo box in French, Savage discussing the legacy of George Bush, Savage delivering food to Mama Savage 3,000 miles away, the Savage Manifesto after I met with my kitchen cabinet on how to save America, Snowy the dog when she was dying, my favorite interview. By the way, one of my most famous interviews was that with the Reverend Jerry Falwell, where we had, I would say, a gentlemanly disagreement on who goes to heaven. And I think many of you never forgot that interview. We have Teddy howling at CNN, watching Wolf Blitzer, getting sick and, frankly, soiling the rug watching Wolf Blitzer. Some of my predictions, which were all true, will be played on the show today and tomorrow. And now let me read you the official Cumulus Media Network's press release. The Savage Nation, hosted by Michael Savage, moves to drive time 3 p. to 6 p. Eastern Time. Atlanta, September 2013. Cumulus Media Networks, with more than 5,500 affiliate radio stations, reaching 129 million listeners every week, announces that Michael Savage's The Savage Nation will move to the highly coveted 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time slot beginning in January 2014, bringing Savage's unique brand of news, views, and reviews to drive time on top radio stations nationwide. The Savage Nation will air on more than 200 affiliates right out of the gate of Cumulus Media Networks, including 60 stations owned and operated by Cumulus. Some of the cities where the Savage Nation will air during drive time include the following: New York, WABC; Chicago, WLS; Dallas, WBAP; Washington, D.C., WMAL; San Francisco, KSFO; WJR in Detroit, and others. They wrote this: not limited to politics, Michael Savage has moved millions with his insights, humor, and versatility. His Ph.D. from the University of California and his 28 published books, including 6 New York Times bestsellers, have made him, quote, the Mark Twain of our time to many. The Savage Nation is the #1 radio show on the internet. Savage was awarded the coveted Freedom of Speech Award by Talkers Magazine. John Dickey, Executive Vice President and Co-Chief Operating Officer of Cumulus, who made this happen, had this to say: Savage is a proven ratings winner. Compelling, thought-provoking content is paramount, and Savage delivers show after show. Myself, here's what I said: with this important time slot, as well as the iconic Cumulus stations coveted by everyone in radio, I hope to edutain the world. Politics will always be my mainstay, but there is so much more to talk about. Breaking news, science, religion, films, and books, well, they've always been my calling cards. With these new stations and new time, I break out a new deck. And now we go to the phones on the Savage Nation. 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. The biggest shakeup in radio talk history was just announced on this program. It is the biggest shakeup in radio history. And without mentioning poor Wallbanger, I got to tell you, that guy was in this slot for, 20 years? It can't be easy, and I'm not going to say another word about Wallbanger. I'm going to stick only to what I do.